For centuries, the Great Sphinx has stared into the desert horizon, guarding secrets too old for written history. Archaeologists argue, historians debate, and yet the mystery remains. Who built the Sphinx? What lies beneath it? And why did Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, say that the answers hidden in its shadow could change the story of humanity forever? Today, we journey to solve a question that has haunted mankind. What secrets of ancient Egypt still sleep beneath the Sphinx? And what do they mean for us today? There comes a time when the sands of time whisper louder than books, when stone speaks more truth than the lips of kings. In the desert of Gizeh stands a guardian, half lion, half man, its gaze fixed on eternity. To most it is only stone, but to Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, the Sphinx was no ordinary monument. It was a doorway to memory, a silent keeper of mankind's forgotten past. For ages, men have gazed upon the great Sphinx of Giza, yet few have truly seen it. It rises from the sands not as a simple monument, but as a riddle carved in stone, a silent question stretching across the desert winds. Its body is the form of a lion, its face the visage of a man, yet its meaning escapes even the wisest among us. Who carved this being of half beast, half human? And why has it endured while empires have fallen, while time itself has ground temples and cities into dust? Historians will tell us that the Sphinx was built around 2,500 years before the birth of Christ, in the age of Pharaoh Khafre. They will say it was a monument of power, a symbol of kingship carved from a single block of limestone. But look closer, and doubts begin to rise. The weathering on its body tells another story. Deep grooves carved not by desert winds, but by ancient rains, rains that last fell upon Egypt long before the pharaohs walked the earth. Geological studies whisper of a monument far older than our textbooks will allow, a monument that may predate recorded history itself. This is where the story turns, for Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, spoke of the Sphinx not as a tomb of kings, but as a marker of ages. In trance, he described it as a remnant of a civilization lost to time, a witness that survived when the world itself was remade. He said that those who carved it were not merely Egyptians, but survivors of Atlantis, who fled the rising waters and carried with them fragments of their ancient wisdom. And in Egypt, they built markers, structures that would withstand the floods of history and call to future generations when the time was right. The Sphinx, Cayce declared, is one such marker. Its gaze fixed on the horizon is not idle. It is deliberate, pointing toward the rising sun, aligned with the stars, bound to the great cycles of the heavens. It is a cosmic clock, a message set in stone that speaks across millennia. And like all riddles, it does not reveal itself easily, for to solve it, one must look not with the eyes of flesh, but with the eyes of spirit. Think of its form, half lion, half man. It is a symbol of transition, of mankind caught between the beast and the divine. It is the story of our own journey, carved into the earth for all to see. The lion, the power of the earth, strength, instinct, and raw force. The human face, the awakening of spirit, the rising of consciousness. Together they tell us who we are, not yet gods, but no longer animals. A bridge between worlds, a riddle of flesh and soul. Yet even this is not the full story. The true riddle of the Sphinx lies beneath its silence. Cayce revealed that it stands not only as a monument, but as a guardian, that within and beneath it lies a hidden chamber, a vault of knowledge buried in the sands of time. Archaeologists dismiss this, saying no such chamber exists. Yet modern scans and ground-penetrating radar have shown voids, hollows, and unexplained passages deep beneath the paws of the Sphinx, just as Cayce foretold. What knowledge lies there? What secrets sleep beneath stone older than kings? The riddle persists because we, too, are not yet ready to answer it. For the Sphinx is not only a question of history, it is a question of destiny. It asks not merely, who built me, but who are you? It challenges us to remember what we have forgotten, to awaken to truths buried deeper than sand, deeper even than stone. For Cayce said that the Sphinx was placed as a beacon, so that when mankind was ready, when we had passed through trials and tribulations, the answers would be found. Its body may crumble, its face may erode, yet still it watches, still it waits, still it whispers across the ages to those with ears to hear. To look upon the Sphinx is to gaze not only into the mysteries of Egypt, but into the mysteries of the soul itself. For it is both monument and mirror, guardian and guide, riddle and revelation. It is the question that echoes in every human heart, what lies beneath the surface and what forgotten truth is waiting to awaken within us. In the quiet hours of night, when Edgar Cayce would close his eyes and drift into the deep trance of sleep, visions unfolded before him, visions not bound by time, not limited by the small scope of earthly history. In that state of expanded sight, he spoke of the Sphinx as though it were not merely stone, but a living witness of ages long forgotten. His words carried weight, for they came not from study of books, nor from the records of men, but from a source older than Egypt itself. Cayce described the Sphinx as one of the oldest monuments upon the face of the earth, older by far than the pyramids, older even than the kingdoms of the Nile. It was, he said, a relic of an earlier world, a time before the great flood when Atlantis still stood. Those who built it were not primitive stonemasons nor the servants of pharaohs, but initiates and guardians, souls who had watched one great civilization collapse into the sea. They journeyed across waters, carrying fragments of wisdom that could not be lost, and in the sands of Egypt, they set down their memory in stone. For Cayce, the Sphinx was never an isolated figure. It was part of a greater pattern, a network of sacred monuments tied to the stars and aligned with the heavens. He spoke of how it marked a convergence between the earthly and the celestial, a point where knowledge was preserved for a future age. Its very design was prophetic, encoded with the story of man's journey from darkness into light, from forgetfulness into remembrance. It was not built to glorify a king, but to remind the children of tomorrow that their history stretched back beyond the boundaries of time. One of Cayce's most startling prophecies was that beneath the Sphinx, deep in the sands between its paws, there lies a hidden chamber, a hall of records. This was no mere metaphor. He spoke of an actual vault containing the chronicles of Atlantis, preserved in stone and crystal, awaiting the day when mankind was ready to uncover them. Within it, he said, are maps of the world before the flood, the sciences of a civilization that mastered energies now lost to us, and the story of humanity's true origin. Not myth, not allegory, but a literal record sealed away to guard against destruction and corruption. Skeptics dismissed these claims as fantasy, yet Cayce remained unwavering. Time and again, in trance, he returned to the same vision. A chamber waiting in silence beneath the Sphinx, connected to the Great Pyramid complex and linked to Atlantis across oceans of time. He spoke of the Atlanteans placing 3 such records in different parts of the world, but that the one beneath the Sphinx would be the first to awaken, the key to opening the others. Even more mysterious was his warning that these records would not be discovered until humanity had reached a point of spiritual readiness. Knowledge, he cautioned, is a double-edged sword. To place the wisdom of Atlantis into the hands of a world unprepared would invite ruin, just as it did before. For it was misused pride and power that brought Atlantis to its fall, and the builders of the Sphinx vowed that their secrets would not again be unleashed until the hearts of men were tempered with humility. The Sphinx, then, is not only a guardian of stone but of time. It waits, patient, unmoving, until the appointed hour. Modern science has begun to trace faint echoes of Cayce's visions. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed voids beneath the paws of the Sphinx, unexplained cavities where no archaeologist expected to find them. The official record hesitates, unwilling to confirm what Cayce declared decades before, yet the silence of stone continues to speak. Is it coincidence, or are we approaching the very threshold he foretold? Consider how Cayce's visions tied the Sphinx not only to the past but to the future. He said, that the discovery of the Hall of Records would coincide with a great shift in human consciousness, a time when man would awaken to his spiritual destiny. These prophecies pointed to a new cycle, the dawning of an age when hidden truths would rise to the surface, and mankind would remember its place in the cosmos. The Sphinx was not placed for the ancients, it was placed for us. The image is haunting, a monument older than history, its silent gaze locked on the horizon, guarding secrets of a drowned continent. Beneath its paws, in the stillness of sand and stone, lies a record untouched by thousands of years. Cayce described it not as a relic for scholars, but as a gift for souls seeking to remember who they truly are. The Sphinx does not simply guard Egypt, it guards humanity's memory. It holds within its shadow the story of what came before and what is yet to come. Beneath the sands of Giza, under the silent pause of the great Sphinx, Cayce spoke of a chamber hidden from the eyes of man, a hall of records, sealed away since the fall of Atlantis. Not a tomb, not a shrine, but a library of a world long vanished. He described it as a vast vault, an archive where stone and crystal hold the story of humanity's forgotten dawn, a place where truth was preserved against the erosion of centuries, where the wisdom of ages sleeps, waiting for the time of its awakening. In trance, Cayce was precise. He said that when the Atlantean continent sank beneath the waters, its people scattered to different corners of the earth. But they did not flee empty-handed. They carried with them fragments of knowledge, mathematics, astronomy, healing, the science of energies that could move mountains. And with this knowledge they built records, 3 great repositories to safeguard their story. One in the ancient lands that would become Yucatan, another in a place not yet revealed, and the third beneath the sands of Egypt, guarded by the timeless Sphinx. The Hall of Records, he said, was not mere stone tablets. It was an archive of extraordinary depth, a treasury of writings, maps, and instruments that chart the rise and fall of civilizations. Within it lies a history of the world before the flood, when continents were shaped differently, when man walked with knowledge now thought to be myth. There, too, are prophecies of what is yet to unfold, predictions of cycles that turn like great wheels through the ages. Cayce described crystal technology preserved within the chamber, remnants of the Atlantean science of light, energy, and spirit. The idea seems too vast, too extraordinary, and yet, for Cayce, it was simple truth. The Sphinx was not built to glorify a pharaoh. It was placed to mark this chamber, to stand guard until the time was right. Its silent presence is a signpost, a guardian that has endured storms, wars, and centuries of silence. Beneath it, untouched by human hands for thousands of years, lies a story that could change everything we think we know about human history. Why would such a record be hidden? Because knowledge can be dangerous when wielded without wisdom. Cayce often reminded his listeners that it was misuse of power that destroyed Atlantis. Pride, selfishness, and the corruption of spiritual law led to its downfall. The survivors vowed that the wisdom of their world would not again be used for destruction, and so they placed it beneath the sands, sealed with the guardianship of time, to be uncovered only when humanity had reached a point of spiritual maturity. The Hall of Records was meant not to glorify the past, but to awaken the future. In his readings, Cayce even described how this discovery would come about. He said that the chamber would be found and opened when humanity entered a new cycle of awakening, when the consciousness of mankind was ready to receive it. He foresaw that this would align with great changes in the earth itself, with shifts not only in politics and nations, but in the very balance of nature and spirit. The unveiling of the Hall of Records would coincide with a turning point in the destiny of mankind. Modern science has begun to find hints of what Cayce declared. In the last decades, ground-penetrating radar surveys around the Sphinx have revealed anomalies, large cavities and tunnels deep beneath its paws. The data shows voids where no official record says they should exist. Egypt's authorities guard these findings closely, often dismissing or concealing the results, yet the whispers continue. Could it be that the very chamber Cayce described waits in silence, hidden from the world not by myth, but by choice. Imagine what such a discovery would mean: to uncover proof of a civilization older than Egypt, to hold in our hands maps of the world before the flood, to read words carved by men who saw the rise and fall of Atlantis. It would not only rewrite history books, it would shatter the very foundations of how we understand ourselves. The story of man would no longer be bound to 6,000 years of written history. It would stretch back into cycles of creation and destruction, into ages of light and ages of shadow, into a cosmic drama far greater than we have dared to dream. Yet Cayce warned that the unveiling of these records would not be for curiosity alone. They were preserved not merely to teach us about the past, but to guide us into the future. The wisdom stored within is meant to remind humanity of our divine heritage, of the truth that we are more than flesh, more than history, more than the dust of forgotten ages. The Hall of Records is not simply a vault of stones and scrolls. It is a mirror of the soul of mankind, holding a reflection of who we were, who we are, and who we may yet become. And so the Sphinx waits, watching across the desert sands, keeping its silence while the world stirs with questions. Beneath its paws, hidden in the stillness of the earth, the Hall of Records lies sealed, untouched, unseen, yet pulsing with the weight of destiny. It is not stone alone that guards it, but time itself, counting down the hours until humanity proves itself worthy of remembering what was lost. If the Sphinx stands as the riddle of stone, and the Hall of Records sleeps beneath its silent paws, then the purpose of these mysteries extends beyond history itself. For Edgar Cayce taught that the secrets of ancient Egypt and the wisdom hidden in its monuments were never meant only to tell us of what came before. They were placed to awaken us, to remind mankind of its true nature, and to prepare us for what lies ahead. When Cayce spoke of the Sphinx and the records beneath it, he did not speak merely of stones, chambers, or lost civilizations. He spoke of destiny. He said that within those records lies not only the story of Atlantis, but the key to understanding who we truly are: souls, eternal, journeying through lifetimes, shaping history by our choices. The ancient builders, those who carried fragments of Atlantean knowledge into Egypt, did not set their wisdom in stone so that archaeologists could debate dates and dynasties. They placed it there as a beacon, to call future generations back to remembrance. This remembrance, Cayce said, was not of names or events, but of purpose. Humanity is not a random accident of nature. We are spiritual beings walking the earth in physical form, and the monuments of Egypt were designed as mirrors to reflect this truth. The lion's body and human face of the Sphinx are not simply artistic choices. They are symbols of the journey from the animal to the divine, from raw power to awakened consciousness. To stand before the Sphinx is to stand before the riddle of our own existence. Cayce's readings reveal that the awakening tied to the Sphinx and its hidden records is not about unlocking technology or unleashing forgotten sciences alone. It is about unlocking the memory of the soul. When humanity reaches the threshold where it seeks wisdom not for conquest but for unity, not for domination but for service, then the Hall of Records will yield its secrets. For the records were never meant to be treasures of power, but seeds of awakening. Knowledge without spirit is destruction, but knowledge with wisdom is transformation. In his visions, Cayce described a future age in which mankind would begin to rediscover its true nature, when spiritual laws would again be understood as the foundation of all creation. The opening of the records beneath the Sphinx would coincide with this awakening, not as the cause, but as the confirmation. It would serve as proof that humanity's story is far greater than we have been taught, that our souls stretch across cycles of time, and that we have lived, fallen, and risen before. The past, Cayce said, is not behind us, it is within us. The secrets of Egypt are the secrets of our own forgotten memory. This awakening is not confined to scholars or mystics. It is for every human soul. It asks each of us to remember that life is not measured in years alone, but in eternity. That the trials of our age, war, division, greed, and fear are not the whole story, but the shadow we must pass through to reach light. The Sphinx, staring endlessly into the rising sun, is a reminder that dawn always follows night. Its silent gaze is a prophecy that humanity will awaken, that what is hidden will be revealed, and that we are destined to rediscover our true inheritance. For what is this inheritance? Cayce declared that it is nothing less than the remembrance of our divine origin, that we are, at our core, children of the Creator, fragments of the eternal, capable of shaping worlds with thought, with love, with will aligned to higher purpose. The ancient wisdom of Egypt was built upon this truth. The temples, the pyramids, the Sphinx, they were not simply monuments of stone, but instruments of initiation, designed to awaken the soul to its own eternal nature. To rediscover this is to rediscover ourselves. The Hall of Records, then, is not only beneath the sands, it is also within the soul of every man and woman. The chamber under the Sphinx may one day be opened to reveal scrolls, crystals, and maps, but the true awakening begins when we open the hidden chamber of the heart, when we remember that we are not bound to the dust, not trapped in the fleeting years of flesh, but eternal travelers through ages of light and shadow. This is the secret of Egypt that Cayce sought to remind us of, that the monuments of stone are but reflections of the monuments of spirit within us. The awakening that the Sphinx waits for is not a single event. It is a shift of consciousness, a rising tide in the hearts of men. It is the slow but certain realization that our divisions are illusions, that our wars are but shadows of forgotten fear, and that the truth of our being is unity. The builders of the Sphinx foresaw this, and Cayce echoed it. They knew that one day humanity would come again to the crossroads, and the monuments would speak, whispering across time, reminding us of what we were meant to be. And so, the Sphinx endures, timeless, watching, its silence louder than words, its shadow deeper than history. It stands not only as a riddle of the past, but as a promise of the future. Its secrets are not locked away forever. They are waiting, as we are waiting, for the hour when humanity remembers, when the soul of man rises to meet its own reflection in the gaze of eternity. And so, we return to the desert, where the great Sphinx still gazes eastward into the rising sun. Its body scarred by wind and rain, its face weathered by time, yet its silence remains unbroken. For thousands of years it has stood as a riddle guarding secrets too vast for the written word, too ancient for memory, and too sacred for careless hands. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, told us that the Sphinx is more than stone. It is a witness of ages, a marker of lost worlds, and a guardian of truths waiting to be revealed. Beneath its paws, he said, lies a hall of records, a library of Atlantis, and the story of humanity's forgotten dawn. It is not a myth, but a trust, a gift sealed away until mankind is ready to remember who we truly are. The wisdom hidden there is not simply for scholars or seekers of history. It is for all humanity. It is a call to awaken, to rise above the blindness of war, greed, and division, and to see ourselves as souls, eternal and divine. The Sphinx is a mirror. Its half lion, half human form reminds us that we too stand between the animal and the divine, between instinct and spirit, between shadow and light. It challenges us to complete the journey it symbolizes, to awaken to our higher nature, to rediscover the truths buried not only in the sands of Egypt, but within our own hearts. Perhaps one day, the chamber beneath the Sphinx will open, and the world will witness what has been hidden for thousands of years. Perhaps the maps, the writings, the crystals of Atlantis will rise again to the light. But Cayce's message was clear. These things matter only if we are ready. Knowledge without wisdom destroys, but knowledge with spirit transforms. The true hall of records is not only beneath stone, it is within us, waiting to be unlocked by the awakening of the soul. The Sphinx has watched the fall of empires, the shifting of kingdoms, the march of time itself, yet it remains, its eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting for us to awaken, waiting for us to remember. Its silence asks us the question that echoes across the ages: will humanity rise to meet its destiny? Will we remember who we truly are? And as the first light of dawn strikes the face of the Sphinx, it reminds us that every night yields to morning, and every age of darkness gives way to awakening. The secrets of ancient Egypt are not dead relics of the past. They are living truths, calling us to embrace the eternal within ourselves, and to step into the destiny for which we were created.